I knew it, you knew it. This nice lady from our Stock Vision knew it. Power bills are out of control. Last quarter's average wholesale price was more than triple the same time last year and double the previous record. That is a shocking spike.
These extraordinary prices are looking entrenched at least for several months, possibly even a year or two.
As for the causes, first, global instability saw a surge in demand for our gas and coal exports. Then a winter cold snap increased domestic demand as well. On top of that, we simply couldn't generate enough juice, courtesy of our crumbling infrastructure.
High amongst the factors is unscheduled outages of ageing coal-fired power stations.
Those adverse conditions are set to stick around for a while, which begs the question.
Can we fix it?
Maybe, Bob, maybe. The government's convinced that renewable power is our pathway out eventually.
The real thing now is that renewable power is cheap power, and we'll see electricity prices come down.
We need to grab the opportunities that are going to come with modernising the electricity grid so that it can take in more renewables.
And, as is the custom, they've pinned the blame on the previous government.
He could at least fess up to the fact that he knew before the election that electricity prices were about to go up by around 20%. This is the political and economic equivalent of the arsonist whinging about the firefighters taking too long.
Strong metaphor, but it won't put downward pressure on power prices either next week or next quarter. So is there any hope for struggling households?
Well, Professor Bruce Mountain is an energy policy expert and possibly our only hope. Bruce, this situation is unsustainable for most Australians. The government is saying years of inaction on renewables has caused all of this. Are they right?
Yes, I think they are right in one way. Had we transitioned to cleaner energy sources, we wouldn't be exposed to these extraordinary coal and gas prices. I think it's fair to say no country or no large country has made the change yet. So it's not entirely true what they say, but I think the gist of it, had we picked up pace sooner, we would be in a better position than we are now.
Professor, for a lot of people living from paycheck to paycheck, this is a critical issue right now. Surely the government needs to provide some immediate relief.
Yes, I think increasingly it looks like the government will. There are state governments that are doing things right now in various different ways. I think the governments have been hoping that this spot market blip might just pass, but it's increasingly looking like it's entrenched. Those customers who've been exposed to new offers, and I'm one, I've seen my bill double, they are seeing that right away. Many businesses are seeing it. I think there's a world of pain coming in the retail market imminently, and I do believe the federal government will need to act seriously on it.
Bruce, as far as I understand it, which is not much, Australia has heaps of gas. Why can't the government just reserve some of the gas that we export to other countries to prevent some of these, wild fluctuations that we're seeing?
We've chosen to be a relatively open, internationally traded country, and the policy stance for a long period of time has to make that trade unrestricted. By and large, that's quite a reasonable policy when prices are reasonable, but I think they've become so extreme now, and the economic effects across the economy to companies and to businesses and to homes is so big now that I think the government's going to need to find ways to actually finesse that policy a bit. It'll mean some sacrifice of windfall gain to the international coal and gas exporters, certainly the gas exporters, but the economic harms we're facing as a consequence of these bizarre prices are now pretty severe, and I think governments one way or t'other will need to take some action.
For those of us old enough to remember, power just used to come from the state electricity company. Was privatisation a mistake?
It's a complex question. I think transferring to the private sector has brought some gains. Some of the assets are sweating better, they're operating better. But I think we've missed many tricks in how we oversee the industry. I think the oversight of it has failed many times. Government can own it, and some of the naughty players we see are government-owned, so it's not a panacea. and a lot of innovation that we're seeing in the market, and clever things are happening because private entrepreneurs can come in and do clever things. We don't want to stamp that out. So it's a vexed question. I'm afraid the finger points as much to naughty private sector operators as it does to really government agencies and governments not really doing their bit.
Well, let's hope they're listening. Thanks so much for your time, Bruce.
Super, thank you.